Let's welcome our speaker, Wendy from Hermosa Beach.
That's good. Why, thank you. My name's Wendy. I'm an alcoholic. And I'd like to thank my girlfriends for coming up with me tonight, and June and her man. And thank you, Myra, for asking me to come out. And I really want to welcome the newcomers. I hope you stay. I hope you hear something that, makes you feel the love. And I just hope you stay. We were driving up here today, and I'm thinking, oh, God, what's my story? What's my story? I couldn't remember. What is my story? I got to remember my story. What's my life? I have to say, I'm a bit nervous, and I have done this before. You guys are a new crowd. But I guess I'll start with my sobriety date. It's September 4th, 2009. Now, that's not my first sobriety date, but it's my most important sobriety date. That day is so important to me today, and I didn't get that early on. So let's see. I was adopted. I was raised in a very loving home. I'm from Washington State. I was raised up in the sticks up in the mountains. We were pretty poor. We used to chop wood for heat, can for the winter. My papa would hunt, so we'd have food, We'd go to the spring for water. I lived with my grandpa and grandma, my mom, my dad, my cousins, lots of love. And my safest place to be as a child was in my grandma's kitchen. If I could have stayed behind her little apron for the rest of my life, I would have been safe, But and my cousins hated me. They hated me because I never got in trouble. I was just quiet. I was so shy. But I can't tell you how loved I was, Anyways, when I was 13, my parents had gotten divorced when I was 3. And my dad moved to California, and my mom, my brother, and I stayed in Washington. And when I was 13, we got a call from my dad, and he wanted my brother and I to come down and see him. And you coming from the, we were like 20 miles from the nearest grocery store where I lived, and next thing I know, I'm in Hermosa Beach and 13, and it's different down here, when you're, it's like life it's in session, and here's that, shy little girl, and then here I am in California, and not too long after that, my mom followed us, and my parents got remarried, and it was the summer before I started high school, and oh gosh, it was so painful. High school, those first couple months of high school were so painful. My brother had to walk me to my classes. I felt safer with my parents. I wouldn't go anywhere without my brother. But then I started meeting friends, and I remember the summer before my sophomore year, I went to a party with my girlfriend, and I still remember his name was Chris Miller. And they were drinking beers, and he gave me a beer, and I drank that beer, and I was like, I know we've all felt that feeling, I could breathe. I was pretty, I was funny, I was, I felt that ease and comfort that I had never felt, and I don't know, that my high school years were, a succession of trying to attain that feeling again. I just was in search of it. I'd party with my friends. I'd get into trouble, but not too much trouble. Kind of do what we do in high school. But when I was 17, I met this guy, and he was the guy. He had this mohawk, and my dad hated him, and I don't know, maybe 6 months later, my dad kicked me out, and so I moved in with him, and A week later, he'd kicked my mom out. She went back to Washington. So here I am. I'm 17. I'm living with a 23-year-old, a stripper, an alligator, and a couple other guys, and it was good. It was fun. Well, I wasn't with the couple other guys. I was with my boyfriend, but yeah. But we lived in. He was a surfer, and we used to go out, and he'd go to bars, and I'd wait in the car until he could, because I couldn't go in. I didn't have my ID, and I'd be just happy to be there. I'd be waiting for him to come out of the bar, just pathetic, But I was, my grandma taught me how to be a really good housewife. So I'd sew his shorts and have dinner ready for him, and I worked at a surf shop, and but the party was definitely on. The party was definitely on. Our house was the party house. Anything, Coke was a big part of that time. Ecstasy, beer, It was fun. It was fun. It was fun going down to Tijuana. It was fun getting drunk. I could go all day without having to drink at that time, and I think I could go a couple days without drinking at that time. But our drinking caused a lot of problems in our relationship, and so we weren't getting along, so we thought, well, we should probably get married. So so at 21, we got married, and now that dad that kicked me out, he lived 6 blocks from me. And every now and again, I'd go knock on his door, and I'd be like, Dad. And he would have nothing to do with me. I got married. He wouldn't come to my wedding. So, here partying, still partying. A lot of drinking. And I think back. It was a lot of drinking. When I finished my story, that was nothing. Had I maintained that drinking, I'd still be drinking. It was like Thursday, Friday, Saturday night. We'd get drunk, parties. Anyways, we weren't getting along again, and so we decided to have a baby. And and so I got pregnant, and. When I was pregnant, I was able to stop everything. Sugarless gum, everything the doctor told me not to do, I didn't do. I didn't smoke, I didn't drink. But I have to say, I might have conceived her on acid. I think I might have conceived her on acid. But the minute I found out I was pregnant, I just didn't do any of it. And the minute I had her, I picked up a beer. I remember nursing her and drinking a beer, and that ease and comfort came over me again, and my alcoholism was progressing. I loved being a mom. I loved that baby girl. I was a good mom, and we weren't getting along again, and I decided that the reason we weren't getting along is because he had the problem. He was smoking too much pot, he was drinking too much beer, and we had this baby girl now, and she's now at this time 3, and I had to go. So a baby on my hip, a suitcase in my hand, and I left him, and he moved to Hawaii because the waves were better. So here I am in Hermosa Beach with my little girl, and life's working for me. I'm still drinking, but I found out about 6 months after my husband and I split up that my I got to kind of go back a little bit. When my daughter was born, I knocked on my dad's door and I said, Dad, we have a family. I have a little, please be a part of my family. And from that day on, he was. We had every Sunday morning we'd have breakfast together. He babysat her all the time. He was a big part of my life, and I lived with him for a time. And when she was 3, I found out he had been abusing her, and then like 3 months later, he killed himself. So now I tell you this story. I tell you that, and I don't. that's not the reason I became an alcoholic. Being adopted isn't the reason I became an alcoholic. I don't know why I'm an alcoholic. I know today, when all that happened, that's when my drinking and using completely turned to 180. I needed to numb out. I had to. It's like I couldn't drink enough. I couldn't use enough. I couldn't face that. I had put my daughter in my father's arms, and the guilt and all that. So not too long after that, I was introduced to methamphetamine, and I tell you what, I never thought that, you hear in school, you take a little hit off of a joint and you're going to be addicted, and oh no, and I never thought anything could get me like that. And that first line, I was hooked. And it worked for a couple of years. I was a single mom. I was working 2 full-time jobs. I was doing laundry at 3 a.m. I was baking pies and picking flowers. And, I thought, no one knew in my office that, in my Diet Coke, there was half full of vodka, I was just surviving. I look back at that time of my life, and thank God for recovery, because we can look at ourselves and get a chance to work on ourselves and realize that it's okay, anyways, I'll get back to that. But so yeah, so it's working for me, the meth and the drinking and I wasn't really dating at the time. I was just kind of surviving. But now I know, definitely addicted. But so I met this guy, and he was from a great family. He had 3 brothers. They were all married, and he was an attorney. And I thought, maybe if I got with him, I would get better. I would just be better, And about 6 months into our relationship, I said, hey, I have a little problem. I do meth, kind of regularly. And he's like, well, you need to quit. And I said, okay, I'll quit. And so I went back to my apartment, and 3 days later, I came back and I said, I quit, But I really didn't know. I was like, oh, man, I can't quit. I had to tell him I quit because I wanted to be with him. But it was like I couldn't quit. Anyways, so about 6 months into the relationship, after that, he kept on finding my drugs around, and he's like, you need to either go to rehab or you need to leave. And so, I better go to rehab. And I remember he had my mom come down, and I was so crazy. I was crazy. He would take the day off work to watch me to make sure I wouldn't sneak out and get more drugs. And he had my mom come down to babysit me. And I don't know, babysit, I was like 30, But we had to keep her, because I couldn't get into treatment for a couple weeks. And, oh, God. Where'd you go? I just went to go get a candy bar. My drug dealer's up the corner. I wake up in the middle of the night. He's sleeping. I sneak out of the house. I run to my drug dealer's house. And I remember one time he was in the living room, and I'm like, oh, man, he's going to catch me. And so I climbed up the side of the house, and I got into our bedroom, and I got on the side of the bed, and I pretended like I was sleeping on the side of the bed. And he came upstairs, and he's like, what? I go, I couldn't sleep. I was sleeping, just craziness. I was just crazy. So anyway, and I was really afraid to go into treatment. I was really, really afraid, because at this time I started doing meth and drinking and using on a daily basis. So and at this time I'm like 30, 31. And I was so afraid of what life was going to look like, You take away my ease and comfort, and I don't know what I'm left with. So I was lucky enough to be able to go to Betty Ford, and for the first time in my adult life, 28 days, I didn't have any drugs or alcohol in my system, obviously, and I really thought I was just a drug addict. I didn't think I was an alcoholic, or maybe I just didn't want to be an alcoholic because I wanted to be able to drink. But I don't know. And I didn't hear the AA message there, and it's not because they didn't give it. I just don't think I was ready to hear it. So the night I got out, my boyfriend, we went out to dinner, and I ordered a glass of non-alcoholic wine, and because, I don't know. And somehow they got our wines mixed up, and I took a drink of his, or I thought it was mine, and I'm like, non-alcoholic wine, that's pretty good. I can live, I could survive. And it turned out that it was switched, and not more than a couple days later I was back drinking, and not more than a couple weeks later I was back using, and not more than a year later, one more time I'm back in treatment. And this time I went to a treatment center down in Long Beach, Newfound Life, and this time they wanted me to stay for 2 months. And I'm good in treatment. I can follow direction. You take me completely out of my to where I can't get what I want to get. I'm good. Treatment for me was a safe place, but I don't know. I always had a reason why I couldn't completely do as directed. They wanted me to go to sober living. They wanted me to stay in treatment longer. And I know I needed to get home to my daughter, my boyfriend, my life. Don't you know that my daughter needs me? My daughter always gets me. My daughter's like 12, 13 by now, and. So I go back home, and I try to go to meetings, and I just don't feel comfortable, and I don't feel like I fit in, and so I stop going to meetings, and God, it's dark when we don't have a program and we don't drink. Without a program, I am like, I don't want to get out of bed. I don't want to be a mom. So it probably was like 4 months later, and I started feeling a little good, and I remember this day, and I was down, we had a boat in the harbor, and I was down on our boat, and I was doing some work on the boat, and I went to go get a pickle out of the fridge. And and there was beer in there. And I thought, I'm going to drink this beer like a lady. I'm going to get a glass. I'm going to go sit out on the deck. And it was a beautiful day. And I'm going to pour it in a glass, and I probably crossed my legs, It's so funny now. Like, if I drink it, and I drank that beer, and I'm like, that's not what I'm looking for, So I drank another beer, and then I went and got a pint of vodka, and within 3 hours, I'm at my drug dealer's house, and I'm back on, and I'm back, and that year took me to places that I thought I could never go, I got arrested a couple times. I completely lost not contact with my daughter. I mean, I was living there, but I couldn't feel her. I couldn't get close to her. She was there. I was there. But, for me, when I'm drinking and using, my drugs and alcohol come way before my daughter, way before my boyfriend, way before my family. But that year I couldn't wake up without knowing that I had vodka and my drugs. I couldn't function without it. He said, "I'm sick of you lying to me," and I said, "I'm sick of having to lie to you. I gotta go, and I gotta go, and I gotta leave this house at the beach with a man that loved me, a daughter that wanted her mom, and I needed to go I needed to go and do what I needed to do, and it's so crazy for me to say this today, because it's like, who is that person? Who is this woman that can go, I'm tired of having to lie. I'm tired of having to hide my drugs. I'm tired of not being able to do the drugs and drink the way I want to drink. So I'm out of here. And I don't know where I went. I mean, I do know where I went. For 3 months, I was living out on the streets, my drug dealer's house. There's the Hustler Casino. I mean, that place is nice and bright and shiny in the middle of the night. I would sneak back home during the day when she was at school and he was at work, and I'd notice that he'd buy new clothes, so I'd steal them and take them back for money. How dare him buy new clothes when I'm living on the streets, right? And he finally caught on that I was sneaking into the house, so I was crawling through the doggy door, and I don't know how I could fit. I weighed probably all of 100 pounds, Oh, God, I was sick. So the next time there's padlocks around the doggy door. I couldn't go in there anymore. And I don't know how my mom, I don't know how it happened, but it was, his name was Scott, you need to be at Scott's house Sunday at 5, and if you're not there, we're done with you. We have one chance to go into treatment. And somehow I made it there. And the next morning, my daughter was going to school, and I said, Jess, give Mommy a hug. I'm going to be gone for a while. And she's like, no, Mom, I can't. I don't want to hug you. And when she left for school that day, I was like, what a little bitch, Today I know that little girl had to go off to school, not knowing when her mom was going to come home. And when her mom came home, whether she was going to be well or not. Because even when I first got sober, at those times, I would be so depressed. Because I wasn't doing the program. I didn't do the steps. I wasn't emotionally right, And so today I know that little girl had to go off. But when I look back at my attitude and how dare her not hug me? I have to go away. No, she's in high school. She needed her mom. So anyways, I'm back at Newfound Life. I'm back in treatment. This time they want me to stay for 3 months, and this time I'm completely broken. I'm spiritually, I'm like empty. I didn't care whether I lived or died or just do whatever with me as you please, whatever. And in those 3 months, back in treatment, I'm good, and so they suggested that I go to sober living in Long Beach, and I'm like, nah, I need to get back to my daughter, and they said, and I'm really close to the treatment staff over at Newfound Life, and they knew me by now, and they're like, you promised you'd go to any lengths for your sobriety, and we suggest you go to sober living. And I'm like, okay, I'll go for 1 month, and then I'm going back to Hermosa Beach. And I ended up staying in sober living for 2.5 years in Long Beach, and that's where I met Tessa, and she stayed sober. She has 11 years and 9 months. The relationships we meet, along this road are beautiful. So in sober living, I learned how to go grocery shopping. I learned how to balance a checkbook. I'd never owned my own car. I bought my own car. I'd always wanted to get my real estate license. And I'm going to tell you this. I took the real estate exam 9 times. And when I got sober, I had studied and I took the real estate exam and I passed, and that felt so good. And my daughter was I'm seeing my daughter again, and I had gotten a sponsor, and I was kind of going to meetings, and I was I felt like I was doing the program, my life was coming back together, or not coming back together. My life was. I'd never had a sober working life, as far as things were working in my life. I got a great job selling new homes. That first year and a half of sobriety, I won Rookie of the Year of Southern California, new home sales. It's like that outside stuff was starting to build up. I bought my first car. I moved back to Hermosa Beach, got my first apartment. I had apartments before, but I don't know. This seemed to be like more mature adult apartment. My daughter moved back in with me. She finally felt safe to be with me. Things were good. When I moved back to Hermosa Beach, I dove right into the program. I went to 1 speaker meeting a week. And I was being funny. I didn't dive back. But that, for me, I was like really doing AA. I was going to 1 speaker meeting a week. And at 3.5 years of sobriety, they tell us not to date the first year. that first year, I knew I was undateable. I knew I was not healthy to date. In that second year, I was busy putting my life back together. And that third year, I was like going, hey, I want to, So at 3.5 years sobriety, I met him. And, he was at a meeting, and he was pretending to be sober. And anyways, I fell hard. I fell, hard. And we became an instant couple. And about 3 months into our relationship, we'd gone on a trip, and I thought he was sober, had the sober guy, I'm sober girl, and we'd gone on a trip, and I remember walking down through the lobby, and I look over to my left, and he's drinking a beer, and I was like, and he comes over, and I start crying, and he's like, what's the matter? And this is, in 3 months, I'm like, this is how sick I got, as far as, because I'd started, then I met him, and then I'm like, what kid, what sponsor, what, and he became my next drug. And he's like, what's the matter? And I go, you're going to leave me, and it's like, that's how, it's not like I'm out of here, I got to protect my sobriety. We went on like that for like 9 more months. It was like I stayed sober and watched him drink, and literally I would sit at his counter and watch him drink. And I loved him so much, and I just didn't love myself as much as I loved him, looking back, And one day, something happened, and it hurt bad, and I was so far removed from all of you that the closest thing that I could think of that would feel this pain was the liquor store, and I drank, and I drank a wine cooler, and within 10 days, I was in a psych ward and back in treatment. And I relapsed on wine coolers and Valiums, and I'm like, I'm sitting in a psych ward going, how did I get here? Like, how did, today I know how it took a long time. Like, I was getting sick. I got so sick in that year watching him drink and not taking care of my sobriety. I just, no wonder I ended up in that psych ward. No wonder I ended up drinking. And, so we split up, and back in treatment, and we got back together. And about 3 months after we got back together, we decided to go away for the weekend. And I had relapsed as well, and I had a bunch of meth with me, and so he was doing drugs. He was doing it like it was cocaine, and I was doing it like I normally did it. And 2 days later, he's like, I'm going to treatment. And I'm like, and we'd spend the weekend talking about how good it'd be for him to go to treatment, because, you go there, take care of yourself, you get sober, you go, I'll stay home, I'll get sober, we'll get back to, we'll come together and we'll be sober, live happily ever after, and life will be good. And so he went to treatment, and he had been coming out of AA. He had been coming to AA for 15 years and never got over 30 days, but he never stopped coming to AA. So he went to treatment, and he came out, and he was sober, and he came home, and I wasn't. And that lasted for 81 days. He likes to remind me that how many days it was. And he didn't like it very much when I was the one drinking and he was the one sober. And so he said, either you get sober or you got to leave. And so that was a little over 7 years ago. I ended back up in a psych ward. It was a detox. He tricked me. He's like, you're going to detox, but it was really a psych ward. But I don't know. I was like, how did I get here again? So I got out of that. I was there for 3 days, and I got out, and my first meeting I went to was my Monday night women's meeting. That's my home group, That's where I met my sponsor, and that's where my life began, I became fully immersed in AA, I'm not going to say that I was perfect in the beginning as far as, I didn't complete the 12 steps in, a month. It took me some time, but I've done the steps, and it showed me a lot, Today, I have a home group today, I have a sponsor today, I have sponsees today, I have a commitment today, and I don't know which one of those keeps me sober, So I do try to do them all, What a beautiful life we can have if we just follow direction and just say okay, that little girl that was raised by an alcoholic, drug addict mom 27 years ago. She was 20. And I shared about it a lot at my women's group. I shared that, I missed it all. I missed it all. I was there in her life, but I wasn't there. I couldn't feel her. I couldn't. There was nothing. It was like the biggest thing I wanted was to be able to feel my daughter, to have a relationship with her, and so I would share about that, And I remember one of the women after one of the meetings, she said, you haven't missed it all. You're still a mom. You still have a job to do, I didn't like to be around my daughter. I didn't like her, and I shared about that. Why don't I like my daughter? All of my being, I just want to love her. But every time I'm around her, I just didn't like her. And one of the women said, I go, what do I do? And they said, well, start answering the phone when she calls, answer the phone, baby steps, and start making dates with her, start spending time with her. And what I came to realize with that, and it kind of coincided with me working on the steps. What I realized with that, it wasn't that I didn't like her. It was because I didn't like me, and all the guilt and all that stuff of how I raised her was keeping her away from me. And it wasn't until I did the steps that I could drop some of that guilt and have a relationship with her, That's been one of my biggest blessings in sobriety is today. My daughter, she's a big part of my life. And, when I was raising her, there were so many times where she was like, Mama, please don't drink. Mama, what's in your cup? Mama, please don't go out tonight. Mama, and I couldn't understand how when I was pregnant, it was so easily I could not drink. And here's this beautiful little blonde little girl going, Mama, why? And I couldn't, Today I know that today I can forgive myself for that. So anyways, that guy's still in my life. I'll just say that now. And we've never been happier. I've never been happier. He's never been happier. We have an incredible relationship. And the reason we have an incredible relationship is because we both have our programs. We both work the steps. We both keep our sides of the street clean. But getting sober, has brought, you get sober and I thought, getting sober, okay, so I get sober, my life's going to be great. And you get sober and you got to do some work. You got to look at some really hard stuff, but you look at that hard stuff, and then it gets less and less and less hard, and then you can take a drive up to Ventura and you can laugh about that stuff. We had some good laughs on the way up here, and a couple years into my sobriety, my fiance was diagnosed with tonsil cancer, and that was tough. That was tough to. He's definitely the man in the house, and I'm definitely he's kind of like the ruler, and my tough, strong guy is now sick, and we're facing what is this? And it was an aggressive cancer, and I was able to share at my meetings, and they were there for me. I crying and being upset, and how do I get through this? And he's not nice, and I don't care if he has cancer. What about me? Just all, and what if he relapses? What if I relapse? Keep coming back. My sponsor, you're not, just don't drink and you won't relapse. And we were able to walk through that, and he is cancer-free today. and we have he's cancer free. And right about the time that he was getting through his stuff and we were in the clear, my daughter felt something in her throat, and it turned out that she was diagnosed with thyroid cancer. And so the beauty of that was I had just been through it with him, and they say, how is this going to help? My sponsor, when Scott got sick, she said, baby, this is either going to break you apart or bring you close together when he got sick. And I'm like, how could something like this bring us closer together? And it brought us so close together. I think he got to see the strength in me, and I got to see the vulnerability in him. And so when my daughter got sick, it's like, what? We just finished with this one. Wait, my daughter? And but the beauty of that is when Scott got sick, we didn't know what, it's like, oh, he's sick. What do we do? Like, what doctors? But when Jessica got sick, I knew what to do. I knew who to call. I knew, how to, and we're still in it with her. She's, we're almost through. It had spread to her lungs, and it's still there, but it's definitely a curable cancer. So we're getting through it. But going back to one of the ladies at my meetings, your job's not done. Thank God I got sober, because probably one of the biggest important things that I needed to be sober for was that. Maybe I wasn't there to, help her with her prom dress or, help her make that costume. But, I was there. I showed up a sober mom. I was able to talk to the doctors. I was able to take control and be a strong mom, loving mom, kind mom, Her dad showed up the day she had gone to surgery. And I think he might be one of us. And I was able to, he has a lot of resentment towards me, and I've been able to work through, I just loving and kind, and we were sitting, she was in surgery for 8 hours, and we were able to sit there, and I was able to, be kind and loving and thoughtful. And she had gotten out of surgery, and he's like, I'm going to go get something to eat. And Scott and I, we'll go with you. And he goes, no, I need to go have a couple drinks. And, and it was like, God, thank God that wasn't me. Because I wouldn't have been able to wait until she got out of surgery. I would have been drinking before I got there. I would have been drinking, I probably wouldn't even have cared whether she got sick. It's sad. I probably wouldn't. What do you mean you're sick? I got stuff to do. I'm busy. I don't know what I would have been. But today I was all in. Today, when she got sick, I was all in, and that relationship I have with her. The night before her surgery, she goes, Mom, I need to talk to you. And I said, okay, honey. We sat down, and she's like, Mom, and my daughter always gets me, She's like, Mom, I want you to know that I forgive you. If anything happens to me, I want you to know I forgive you. How beautiful is that, Anyway, she forgot about that a couple of weeks into it. Mom, she wasn't very nice to me. Going to the doctor, she's like, she told me, she goes, Mom, can you go wait in the waiting room? She's like, your energy is making me anxious. I'm like, I'm just sitting here reading my book, Oh, she's I don't know. I think I might be saving her a seat too, but thank God she knows where to come, right? So many blessings we get here, if we just give ourselves a chance, We were talking about on the way up here, it's like, what was my bottom? Why didn't I stop when, I don't know, I got that DUI? Or, why didn't I stop when, my daughter asked me to, what, this last relapse, it wasn't that big of a one, I'd been worse. What made it my time this time to be all in? And why wasn't I before? None of that matters. It is because I am today, And because I'm all in, and what I mean by being all in, I have my meetings. I have my sponsor. I have my gals. I have girlfriends today, I have girls that love me. And I can say, I would have used to say that I love, but I can let people love me today, So my daughter, we have a good relationship. She likes to remind me of a lot of things that I don't remember, especially at really inappropriate times. Thanksgiving. Mom, remember the time you'd run out of gas and you'd push your car in your bikini and remember the time you hid your drugs in my room and I wouldn't tell you where, it's like, Jess, Grandma's at the table. I love my daughter today, and the reason I have that relationship with my daughter is because of all of you, because someone said, don't drink no matter what. I remember a therapist told me once early on, he goes, Wendy, just surrender, don't drink no matter what. And I'm like, I could not understand don't drink no matter. How do you just not drink? I couldn't. And surrender, okay, I surrender. I like surrender, okay, I surrender. But I didn't understand the true meaning of surrender, that true meaning. Today life's good, the hard stuff. Life's going to be up and down. It just so happens that today, at this moment, today was a good day. Vicki and I went to hot yoga this morning, and the yoga teacher put, what was that, essence on it, and it smelled like grapefruit. And I remember, I was right there, Today is good. Besides what's all going on in my life. I'm happy, I'm healthy, I'm sober. I thought I could never say it. I thought I'd never be. What do they say? Your life beyond your wildest dreams. I'm like, what is that? And I don't know what my I didn't even have dreams. It's like, but at this moment, I'm content. And I thought I could never. That ease and comfort I used to get from the bottle and the drugs, I get today. I get that today here in Alcoholics Anonymous. I get that through working with other women. I get that through showing up to my life today. Let's see. I think I'm going blank, and I don't know. If you're new, just give yourself a chance. You deserve it. Today, I used to think when I got sober, I'm like, I think a lot of us think this, my life's over. I'm never going to have fun. I'm never going to laugh and dance. Never going to dance. How am I going to clean the house? Grocery shop. How am I going to drive? I don't know. I don't know how I'm going to drive without that drink between my legs, And today I do, 1 second, sometimes 1 moment, 1 day, that all adds up. And, I think I'm just rambling now. And I love you guys. Thank you for my sobriety. Thank you for being here. And I don't know, I love feeling content, and I never thought I would. So thank you.